Hi, my name is Cameron Carlson with Ohayocon, here with Anime on Location here at Ohayocon 2020. It's Sunday. I'm a little tired. I'm with Fia Tanks. How you doing?
I'm just as tired as you are, but I'm here.
So how'd you get started in the world of anime and science?
Well, people started asking questions and asking if I could apply it to them. The first question that I ever got asked was, Fiaura, why does tentacle porn exist? And I stared at them and I went, okay, you have a degree in human sexuality, you have a degree in human communications, you have a degree in biology. You can figure this out. So I spent about 6 weeks, got a research grant, wrote a research paper on tentacle porn, and then made it into a panel. And that's how I got into doing science for anime.
Well, it's wonderful because I'm also a scientist as well. I have a geology degree, so it's funny.
Yes. The other thing about me is when people ask questions that I'm actually curious about, I'll spend days doing it, and that's all I do. This one time someone asked me, Fiaura, how old are the ponies in the My Little Pony show? And I went, I don't know, give me a minute. 72 hours later, and about 4 hours of power naps, they came back and went, have you slept? No, here's the age of all the ponies in the show. I'm going to bed. And there's just this giant, thick notebook that they're going through, and they're like, how did you figure all of this out? And I'm like, reasons.
Well, a good researcher quotes his sources.
Exactly.
So, looking through your online persona, you love My Little Pony, as we discussed earlier, figuring out other ages. What drew you to the franchise specifically?
So, in 2016, every year I run a little secret 2 weeks called the 2 weeks of yes. If you ask me something within reason, I'll do it. So in 2016, a former teammate of mine, I just quit playing World of Tanks professionally altogether. A former teammate of mine came up to me and said, I have this acting show at a convention. We need a new villain. Are you okay with it? I said, sure, what the hell, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was a My Little Pony convention. I was playing their new villain mascot. And by the end of the convention, I had hundreds of people trying to figure out who I was. And I had genuinely enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
So at the end of the con, I say, okay, fine, I'll watch this little girl show and see what it's about. I started watching at 2 a.m. and at 10 o'clock when everybody came back in, I was somewhere in season 3.
Kind of fell in love with it right away.
Exactly. And from there, they then started asking me to apply the science that I was doing for Warhammer and anime and video games to the My Little Pony show, at which time I did, and then every My Little Pony convention in existence wanted me there as a guest.
Yeah, because we went to Canalot in 2012. Was it 2012? Yeah, it was a while ago. We went to that one. It was held in Strongsville, Ohio, at a tiny little Holiday Inn. That was interesting, but it was a really good time. The community was really wonderful. We met a lot of wonderful people. So I'm glad you were able to get embraced by the love of the My Little Pony convention. So tell us about the Fallout Equestria 1. How did the whole idea come about? Because I know you personally wrote in the book about it.
Well, the actual first iteration of it is done by someone called KCAT.
Okay.
It is statistically, if you actually go through statistics online, it is the most popular fan fiction in history.
Oh, wow.
She has over 30 million people who have read the last chapter.
Wow.
However, what ended up happening was a group came to me called Dead Tree Studios who were developing a tabletop game for this.
Okay.
They had tentative permissions from Bethesda and Hasbro to make the tabletop game, so long as they understood that they put the disclaimers that said this is not officially endorsed.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, I'll stream it. 4 weeks later, they go, hey Fiaura, why don't you write it? And I went, is that a challenge or a question or a Fiaura? We will pay you $1,000 if you will attempt to write this for a year. Okay. And then it got popular. And then I'm like, what's going on here? Yeah. So I ended up writing Fallout Equestria Dead Tree for an entire year. And then the fans of it came to me and said, we want you to make a book. Yeah. We want you to publish this. So I got more editors and more artists, and we started the process of that. And that ended us up in court for a while.
Oops.
Whoopsie. But it actually ended us up in court because I took them to court. I didn't get sued. I actually said, no, I'm going to sue for parody rights. Yeah. So I went to the state of Virginia because I lived in Virginia at the time, one, and two, because Virginia is very friendly to fair use.
Nice.
Like extremely friendly to fair use. This took a total of 3 months.
Wow.
$7,000 of my dollars, plus the publication costs and all the other expenses I was paying. This was just $7,000 in legal fees.
Correct.
For me to sit in front of a judge, 3 copyright lawyers, and my own lawyer, all of whom I had to pay, to read my work, play through the entire main story of Fallout 4, and watch the first season of My Little Pony. When I told the judge what he had to do, this 70-year-old judge at the time, he's now 71, leaned forward, looked me in the face and said, "Come again?" 2 months into this, because I had to come to court twice a week. 2 months in, and they would hit me with a barrage of questions. I would have to twice a week for 1 to 3 hours twice a week. And they would hit me with a barrage of questions. And when you're in a court case like that, you can't even talk about it. Yeah. So all my fans knew was they would get a message on Discord, "Going to court, see you guys in a little while." And I would come back and I would stream, and like they would occasionally ask me a question, and I'd be like, "I can't tell you. Because it's an ongoing case. I can't tell you anything." Right. But two months into this process, this judge leans forward and goes, "Miss Miller, I have a question for you." And I go, "Yes, sir. Do you have another dress? Because I've seen you in the same 3 dresses twice a week for 2 months." Yeah. And I went, "Your Honor, I don't have a lot of business clothes, but I do have a lab coat. If that would be acceptable, I'll wear it instead. I'll allow it on the grounds I don't believe you have a lab coat." So I walk in, sit down, look at him, and he smiles. And my lawyer goes like pale white, like he just died and became a ghost. Leans over and goes, "I've been in this court for 3 years. He has never once smiled." I'm like, "Is that good or bad?" "I don't know."
Well, how did things go?
The judge and all 3 copyright lawyers said this is parody. We then had to send this ruling to Hasbro and to Bethesda Studios and wait 30 days for them to challenge. Yeah, so from January 28th until March 1st, this was me. Every day, because I was expecting a hammer, I was expecting an actual lawsuit, like me to have to go to court and actually fight. Then March 1st rolled around. They hadn't responded.
By law, they are done with the 30 days.
So I sent them the note. I then got to go to the court, fill out the paperwork. They got a notification that said, "You have 7 days to send the legal disclaimer you wish inserted into this book. It must be approved by the author." And then all sorts of panic and fireworks happened. Yeah. We apparently got incredibly lucky because Hasbro had just announced My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. This is the final season. Yeah. And Bethesda was dealing with Fallout 76 being on fire, literally.
Yeah, I remember that.
So while they were dealing with this had gotten lost in the legal shuffle, and so it's just gone unnoticed. So they came back, handed me the disclaimer. Those are now included in both books as the first thing. And now the court case is over. I'm looking up and going, "Okay, I won. What do I do with this now?"
Sell it.
I'm trying. I give all the artist royalties. There's full color prints in the books. There's the editors get royalties, so I don't make very much money at all.
Well, you're doing the right thing.
But I'm trying to make sure that everything's done above board, and my taxes are now super scrutinized by a tax attorney to make sure that I've done everything correctly, because I know if I fall even slightly out of line, I will get jumped on by somebody.
Well, you're doing all the right things, and I hope fans are able to enjoy the work that you've been able to get out to them.
I've been told it's good. I've had everyone who's done a review, who sent me the review, has sent a positive review. I still think I'm a terrible writer. I've only promised to hang up that hat if I ever make money on this. But I'm like, okay, fine, I'll keep going. And it's just one step at a time, and just make sure that that the ice is still thick enough to support me.
Well, like I said, you're doing all the right things, and everybody's doing great. So, we just went over that with the state of Virginia. Now, looking at your YouTube content, you love to do Let's Plays along with on your Twitch as well. What's it like when you get to play games with your fans and interact with your fans?
So I have this really big social battery that actually requires charging. So just getting to sit down. So when I first started doing the Let's Plays and stuff, the first thing I did was say, okay, I'm going to open a TeamSpeak server. And I just made it an open server. Anybody could join. They could come in and play. I could kick them if need to be kicked. And then when Discord came along, I said, yes, this is Skype and Facebook and TeamSpeak all making a baby. And then Discord also I signed up to Discord during the alpha. And it never occurred to me for 2 years they'd done this. But about 2 years in, somebody went, Fiaura, is your Discord number really 6420? And I went, they knew. So I just enjoy having them there. I know most of them by name. I actually know a bunch of their real names.
We saw two of your fans were here right before we showed up.
Yes. One of my really big fans, because he's like a $50 patron, came up to my table yesterday and was like, hey, Fiaura, and then just slapped down like 2 things of Frappuccino and a 6-pack of Lipton tea. And I'm like, thanks. But I have these incredible fans who go out of their way to make sure that I know that I'm doing something that's worth doing. Because if I didn't have them, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to stop doing this and go do something else.
Well, that means you're loved and supported greatly by your fans. So you've covered a wide amount of science, as we discussed. You and I are scientists. In the videos and presentations that you do, what branch would you say you like the most? Like you said, you have biology degree.
I have a degree in biology. I have an associate's in biology, a bachelor's in human sexuality, and a master's in human communication. I've taken 69 other graduate courses, which the joke is giggity. Because when you're a professor at a university, you can sit up to 9 weeks in a course and not pay anything.
Interesting.
So I've taken physics, nuclear physics, chemistry, geology, geography, metallurgy, all these courses to just get additional knowledge and additional bases. Also, it's really nice to get to rent the books and they go photocopy them. So I have just like these stacks of photocopied books on my bookshelf. But my most favorite thing to invest in is to take human communication and sociology and figure out why we love the things we do. A panel that every My Little Pony convention I get invited to as a guest, which this past year was 20, I tell them there's one panel I have to run. Why do bronies exist?
That's a really good question that I think a lot of people need to dive into, like on the science end and the human communications end.
And the brony fandom has renamed it Brony Church.
If you think about it from a church aspect, it's a understanding of human nature and all that. So I can understand the philosophical questions that come with why are you into My Little Pony and that brony culture. So I really understand where they've renamed it that. Like, it's very clever.
And it's an hour-and-a-half panel, which is kind of inconvenient for the conventions because they prefer hours. But what ends up happening is by the end of the panel, I've had voice actors from the show come and sit on the panel with me. Bill Newton and Tara Strong and so many of them come sit on the panel with me, and I turn around and they're like gathering tissues and bawling their eyes out. I've had the entire audience bawling their eyes out. And in one case at Cider Fest, this panel had gotten so well known that when I started to run it, they had to knock the wall down for the panel room next door and extend it out. Because we were in such high violation of fire code, the hotel was threatening to close the room.
Yeah.
So they knocked out the room, and we had almost 600 people out of a convention that had 1,200 people at it in that room for that one panel. And by the end of it, I couldn't get out the door. So that's like the most fun I can have is to sit down and go, why do I as an adult like this? Yeah. I did that with Agretzko yesterday, and I also did it with, I also have another anime panel for My Hero Academia that's not the physics panel. That's why do I want to watch Heroes?
Well, it's interesting to hear about that. Now, let us not forget you also run an online store full of merchandise of your own creations and art. How is it to run an online store, and how much fun is it when you come up with your unique items?
This is stressful. So the only thing up here I personally made are the books. Okay. Everything else I designed, I would send out to an artist. They would draw it or make it, or I would find an artist like this. And the way she does this, I've seen her do it on live stream. She doesn't put like a stencil or anything down. She sits there and flicks paint. Oh. And then when it dries, she comes back with an X-Acto knife and carves out the image.
Wow, that's really unique.
And I'm just like, I'm gonna pay you money. But I designed this stuff, and I'm like, can you guys make this? And then I have to figure out how to make it. Or people ask specifically with the plushies, the coffee cups, the booze bottles, oddly enough, and stuff like this poster. Like, they ask me, can you make this Fiaura? And I go, I'll figure it out. And then I tell my audience, this is how much it's going to cost to make. This is how many pre-orders I need. Within, I think the closest I got was the mouse pad and the docky. Within 48 hours, I had an excessive number of pre-orders than I needed to actually pay for the piece to be made. Yeah.
Nice.
So they are incredibly obsessed about this, and I still want to I realize I can't figure out why, because it's a bad idea to try to analyze your own work to figure out why it's popular.
That's a little bit of the hard as a scientist to I wrote this paper. I don't really want to read it myself anymore. So now, are there any upcoming projects you want fans to know about at this time that you're allowed to talk about that aren't behind a pesky NDA wall?
Well, exactly 30 days from today, Chapter 1 of the audiobook will be released.
Nice.
We are not doing this as a standard, what would be considered a modern audiobook, which is where you have one or two narrators. We're doing this as a classical audiobook. So this is where the Red Fern Grows, where every single character is voiced.
Congratulations.
This morning, I am happy to say that Ellie Ray Hennessy, the voice of Mist Main from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, signed on to play Shadow Window.
Congratulations.
So that was announced this morning, and we have a whole host of fandom voice actors and professional voice actors who have signed on, people like Josh Scorcher, Jesse Nowacking.
Yeah.
We also have Forrest Rain, who's not only signed on to play Chifundo, but she's also built a complete intro song for the chapters as a complete original song.
That's interesting.
That's actually, I revealed that at the Fallout Equestria panel as the work in progress, because we're waiting on two more voice actors to add their voices to the chorus. But that's a completely original piece of work. And we actually have a live cello player who recorded the cello part.
Well, I hope fans can check it out when they get the chance. Now, is there any way for us to keep up with you online via social media? And obviously, we talked about your Twitch and YouTube. And then what message would you like to give to the people that have just literally said, here's my wallet, I want to keep supporting you, and I love what you do. So what message would you love to give to them?
So if you want to follow me and stuff, I'm on Twitter. We have a 600+ person Discord, most everything I have, nothing I have is locked behind a paywall. There's a few exceptions for physical merch, but otherwise. But I release stuff early to patrons a couple weeks early, but it will be eventually released to the public. And I've gone out of my way to say there is no paywalls. If you want to talk to me directly, my name on Discord is Fiaura #6420. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel. I have Twitch as well. Those are my primary I'm going to be outputting content every day. The femfiction.net website for fanfiction, we released the draft 1 version of the chapters for the books. There's about 20,000 word difference from book 1 and a 46,000 word difference from book 2 between the draft 1 and the actual released version. There's also extra pictures in the books that aren't on femfiction. But the message I would give to people who would either want to support me or just generally be around, wear your heart on your sleeve and cover it with a bulletproof vest. Don't be afraid when someone comes up and talk to you, and don't be afraid to come up and talk to other people. Most of my friends I met either at a convention or I met out of the blue. Some of my best friends I met because of a terrible accident in one case. And now, she's even called herself my sister. So don't be afraid of other people and just be nice. As the character that I've written has said, there isn't do better, there is be better. And that should be something you always strive for.
Again, wonderful message. Thank you so much for coming out and talking with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for interviewing me. I'm more than happy to do these, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're more than welcome. Thank you again.